Uh, I'm here representing the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce as its president, and our initiatives are focused on raising awareness, facilitating adoption, and providing advocacy for commerce, consumers, and people transitioning careers into blockchain tech. So I'm proud to be a representative of that and speaking today about how Opportunity Zone funds can fuel cryptocurrency investing. And I'm not gonna dig really deep because I think I was told it was about 15 minutes and you guys have been here a while, and if you haven't refilled your wine glass lately or gotten a beer, it's probably on your mind that you wanna grab a little something, and so definitely wanna go through this quickly, but respect that this may be something that could be a huge opportunity for investors at any level. So we'll go ahead and just very briefly, obviously I was introduced nicely. I did, as an early Bitcoin adopter, have the opportunity to see these ups and downs for the last 6+ years, and was shown at an international event how cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin at that time, because it was the only one, was going to change the world as a diversified asset class and as a chaos hedge. So that was my introduction to this space a little over 6 years ago. So it's been a very interesting ride to interact and connect and be in this role now to help facilitate the mass adoption. So it's a fun space. And whenever I speak, I always highlight Bloom in the Dark. It's a 501c3 charity. My sister wrote a book about 6 years ago, and it has become a TV show that is aired in 204 countries, translated in multiple languages, and is helping victims become ex-victims. So it's something I always like to give a little shout out to because it's something I'm passionate about and is changing lives around the world. Possibly more significantly than crypto, but you always want to help, boost the things that you love, right? And so I love my sister dearly, and if you do connect with her story, hopefully it can positively impact your life or the life of someone that you love. So throw this, obviously, Dara threw this up as well. We have that massive dive, but I'm about sharing perspective. So look at Amazon's bubble. So super tiny in comparison to future growth. And I think that's where we're at right now, is more about where that arrow is pointing, maybe a little further down. But you can see it again in Apple's bubble. This is not something that is uncommon in adoption curves. And so when people freak out nowadays, when there's crashes, I'm like, yeah. And we're headed in a right direction, regardless of where we are in the dips and the valleys and spikes. So this is exciting for me to be able to share, because I was part of that long growth, and I watched the big spike. And I have confidence that we have a long way to go, because we're still under 1% adoption. And it's perspective. And those of you who are new to blockchain and crypto, just kind of settle your hat on, because a couple of weeks you're going to be an old hat and an old hand at this. And I believe the same is probably true with the Opportunity Zone funds. This may be the first time you've heard about Opportunity Zone funds. You may be like, I'm blanking on your name. I put your card in my pocket. Karen. Okay, Karen, I spoke with her earlier, and she's very familiar with Opportunity Zone funds, and is promoting benevolent capitalism. And so this is something that is changing right now, just conceptually, because the money hasn't really hit, but as the real money starts hitting, we're going to be changing depressed areas around the country in a really beautiful way. So we'll hit a little bit about the Opportunity Zone funds. Some of you, when I first heard about it, I was like, wow, what an amazing opportunity. It's one of those mind-blowing things. You're like, the government really passed this? Like, this opportunity was like intentionally provided to the common man as well as the institutional investor, this is pretty freaking cool. So I hope as we look at some of the details, you'll understand why this is so important. The most basic reason is because we have so many people in areas that need to have an influx of support, of money that is being put into their space to help make things better. Not as a handout, but as a revitalization. And so the stats, unfortunately, have shown that even philanthropic organizations don't focus significantly on these really depressed areas. And so we have an opportunity with these zones to come in with these tax incentives. And I'm going to break it down just very, very simply. And we're going to be doing future trainings to help, suss out all the details and help people understand better. But the tax incentives are directed at capital gains. So that's short-term or long-term capital gains. Instead of paying your taxes on those capital gains, you're actually able to take those gains and put them into an opportunity zone fund and totally delay paying any taxes for a significant amount of time. And we'll talk a little bit more about those timeframes. But the focus of this capital and these funds is directed into those needy areas that we were looking at earlier. And the beautiful thing is that unaccredited investors can participate in these opportunity zone funds. And so there's a lot of debate about whether accreditation really protects the investor or not. And I've talked to people, I have friends on both sides of the aisle on it. And to me, the more people that have the opportunity to put their money into something that can create a greater good, the more positive the outcome for the community. So I'm really excited that both accredited and unaccredited investors can participate in these funds. And obviously, you're tied to the community's success, right? So it's not just, hey, I'm throwing my money into a big company and, I hope Apple does well or I hope Amazon does well. It's like, I hope this area becomes more vibrant. I hope these people have better schools. I hope this business that's been planted here creates more jobs. So you're really engaging at a more positive emotional community level with your investment than any other type of investment vehicle I've seen to this point. So to me, that's really exciting. And it rewards patient capital. The time frames are 5 and 7 and 10 years. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? And a lot of people, you hear about cryptocurrency, and it's like, oh yeah, it's going to go to the moon, and I've got this bag, and I'm going to be a millionaire next year. Some people have had positive things happen with that expectation, and they have their Lambos, and that's all well and good. But we also have the realities of people who've lost their homes, and this hype and cycle is definitely not what we encourage at the Chamber. We encourage adoption through education and being measured in your approach. So I love that this program really rewards the patient capital, and it was designed with startups in mind. So I'm not going to get into the details tonight about why that can be so beneficial in the different tiered ways that you can approach it. You can actually layer different organizations to maximize the benefit, but there's some really neat ways to work within the regulations to make this be a really powerful opportunity. So you start out with that capital gains tax being deferred, and that can be deferred until 2026. So that's a long time frame where it's like, okay, I'm not going to have to pay these taxes. Just they can sit and grow for me, and the partial forgiveness that happens at the 5-year point. You have 10% of your total capital gains tax that is forgiven if you hold it in an opportunity zone fund for 5 years. When you have the the patience to sit in the fund for 7 years, then you get 15% of your taxes just totally forgiven. There's not a lot of opportunities to just have federal taxes forgiven like that. So the really beautiful thing comes if you can be patient for 10 years, and then all of the gains that you've had through that time frame are totally tax-free. And you have not had to pay those taxes. They've been deferred up to that point, and you still have that 85% tax that you're going to be paying. But you've been able to take advantage of that capital over the past 10 years to create wealth, not only for yourself, but in the community that your Opportunity Zone Fund has been invested into. So this is, to me, just a really positive, and I'm an educator, so I'm going to throw terms at you because we want to be sure that we're clear on what are zones, what are funds, what are investments. And I know you all can read, so I'm not going to read them all out loud for you. But the important thing I want to highlight is that self-certified investment vehicles open a very unique and interesting door. You don't have to have someone else certify you or validate that you can have an Opportunity Zone fund. You can actually, filling out a fairly simple form, be self-certifying that you, as an individual, as a corporation, are creating an Opportunity Zone fund. So just roll that one around a little bit in your brain, because this opens a door of opportunity. It also opens a door of responsibility. Because even though the initial, I think it was 3 pages when this initiative was rolled out, very underregulated. They are in January rolling out some clarifications. So you can do this very simply, and you can have your own Opportunity Zone fund. You want to be sure that you are educating yourself about the details that surround that. So if you do choose to do that, and you do choose to engage in your own community and help bring it up, or in Atlanta, I don't know if I threw these pictures up or not, but I may not have. Just go to the Opportunity Zone Fund map, and it will blow your mind where these opportunity zones are. And this is something that there's so many areas of need, and you may find out that it's just right down the street from you. And that you can have a role and actually get a tax benefit as well to participate in that. So how does this connect to the Blockchain Chamber of Commerce, right? We have been obviously looking at the digitization of assets and tokenization, depending on how you want to name it. We have the ability to take the technology that we had described to secure gold and to show ownership of gold, to show ownership of these funds, to show ownership of the properties that are held by these funds. And that solves a liquidity issue, potentially, when funds have investors coming in at different time frames and they maybe want to pull at 5 years or at 7 years or at 10 years. How do you handle that? And we at the Chamber believe that there's a solution through the tokenization, not only of the funds potentially, where then the fund tokens can be traded on exchanges that are specifically licensed for assets, but you can also have the tokenization of the individual assets that are held by the fund, potentially. And there's going to be a lot of regulation around this. The technicalities of it have not been fully sussed out, even by the regulators. So this is the futuristic thinking, this is the potential, and then we're going to have to be very careful to step into it in a very measured way and making sure that we're accessing all of the resources, going to the SEC, making sure that the steps that we're taking are appropriate. And these are zones in the United States and territories. So you can't go to Malta or Gibraltar, physically with these zones. These are American-based zones. So we're going to need to be carefully operating within the regulations that are here in the United States. but I believe the opportunity that we have to support these underserved communities with investor dollars that otherwise would just be paid in taxes. We can now put that to work, not only for ourselves, but for our communities. So how will you choose to take advantage of the Opportunity Zone funds and blockchain? That's a question that every single one of us needs to process, and I think the opportunities are limitless. So discover the opportunities. Remember, this is a long-term trend. It's just beginning. They're just coming out with the clarifications of the policies in January for Opportunity Zone funds. So this is something that is, it's a beautiful place to be, right? There will be helpful tools that are built to help people navigate it. You could be one of those builders. Each and every one of you has an opportunity to help provide a solution to the community through these Opportunity Zone funds, through blockchain technology. So we have more trainings that are coming soon. Obviously, we'd love to invite you to the chamber. We have an event on digital security that's going to be next Thursday. And welcome to ask me for my card. It's blockchainchamber.org. And we're a very welcoming community. We are the most naturally diversified community I've ever personally been a part of, and I love that about us. And very welcoming. We are token and platform agnostic, and we're working hard to serve the community and help facilitate adoption of blockchain technology. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys find a way to engage in this opportunity.